That's usually me that does stuff like that to get people's attention. Hey, by the way, it's time to start. So let's get started. Mr. Smith.
All right. Well, we wanted to update you on a number of different issues that are coming up in the public works realm. So we're going to hit a number of different topics, and I'll just let Mark take it over from here.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I believe we're going to start off with a little discussion on our industrial pretreatment program. We have Trayton Moore with Anderson Perry joining us on Zoom if he's... Hey, there he is. Look at that. Wow. Okay. So this should work out well. So I'll just kind of tee it up for you a little bit, Trayton, and gave him maybe 10 minutes or so to just kind of talk about what some of these changes are. But so we're embarking on a process to add an industrial pretreatment requirement to our city code. Generally speaking, I think you can kind of think about that as, the state DEQ, they have permitting programs that say, here's things that you're allowed to discharge and those types of things. This would be a similar type of a setup, just with our own system. So we would essentially become like a permitting agency for industrial users in the community and say, here's what you're generally allowed to discharge to us, because ultimately we're the ones that answer to DEQ in terms of what we end up discharging out the other end of our sewer system. So I brought Trayton in to talk about it a little bit, because here in a few weeks at an upcoming council meeting, we'll be bringing these changes to you for actual adoption. So I think the changes come across looking like they're like 60 pages long of city code changes, but that's just because our sewer code is really, really long. So with that, I'll turn it over to Trayton, and he can talk to you a little bit more about industrial pretreatment programs.
Yeah. So, hey, can everyone hear me okay over there?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. So, Mark summarized it pretty well there, and yeah, what we've kind of pulled together, there are just some really specific requirements, per federal regulations that need to be included in your municipal code as you embark on developing your own pretreatment program. Oregon DEQ is generally in charge of reviewing and reviewing those programs and those potential code changes. We've already gone through and verified that these changes are compliant with their requirements. And yeah, really, it's just the intent there is to verify that you have proper authority. So, for things like right of entry, in case you have an industrial user and they're not being compliant and you need to go do a site inspection, or by you, I mean, your public works staff, or you have the correct structure in place to be able to set permit application fees and then the associated fines and that sort of things as it pertains to industrial pretreatment. And this is just one of the steps in the process for developing the program, is first just verifying and proving it out to DEQ that you have the authority to do that established in code. And then I guess also to Mark's point, obviously you already had a rather robust sewer ordinance, and the changes we've made are really to or at least that we're proposing be made, are really to integrate that into the rest of your sewer ordinance. And so it's there are a few new sections and then just some modifications to just make it read nicely as a ordinance as a whole.
Great, thank you.
Hey, Trayton, could you maybe talk a little bit again? I think we've had some presentations with our Public Infrastructure Committee, but with the entire council here, maybe just a little bit more too, talking about first off, like what is pretreatment? Because a lot of people don't even know what that necessarily means. Like what is pretreatment? And then also maybe just some examples of some of the businesses that, may end up having to sort of comply with this type of a thing, and what that actual like programming and permitting process looks like. Certainly.
So yeah, Mark mentioned it a little bit earlier, but yeah, the intent behind that pretreatment is really to protect your system. So the industrial pretreatment program kind of formalizes a process where when a new commercial user comes into town, they'll fill out their sewer application, and with that sewer application, we're working on developing a pipeline where they'll fill out a form that will help public works staff to identify if that user might have the potential to discharge a wastewater that could harm either your sewer system or your wastewater treatment plant. And industrial users in this case, or as it pertains to the pretreatment program, those who will be regulated are anyone who through this process is identified as having potential to cause harm and just needing some additional oversight. Usually that would involve either individuals who discharge high volumes of water, or rather of wastewater, or people who discharge, I guess, weird pollutants, heavy metals or strange things or salts, different things that could damage the treatment facility itself, or just things that you're not equipped to in a standard municipal wastewater treatment plant to treat, that would just pass on through and then cause pollution downstream of you. And because you have a permit with Oregon DEQ, any sort of pass through like that, if you don't have an industrial pretreatment program, ultimately the city's liable or would be liable for those types of pollution events. But with the implementation of the pretreatment program, you have more of a system in place to protect yourselves from some of that liability, to better identify where some of those types of maybe odd pollutants may be coming from, but then also just in the case of a pollutant event, but more importantly, just to overall protect yourselves from, as best you can, from any of that happening in the first place. So specific examples of types of businesses that you would be seen as regulated by an industrial pretreatment program might be things like breweries, tanneries, things that other types of things that might discharge a high strength wastewater, winery wastewater, things like that, or high volume. I mentioned things like data centers or other similar types of businesses that just have high volume of water, things like that. I don't know, Mark, if you want me to get into specific details of businesses, but those are at least some examples of types of businesses that may require regulation. Ultimately, they'll fill out a survey, and we have surveyed many of the commercial users in town to better identify and weed out who would require regulation and who wouldn't.
Great. And I think maybe just, and again, Trayton can sort of redirect me or correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a helpful way that I like to think of in terms of the pre-treatment process is, it's not saying that certain businesses are not allowed to send their water to us. It just may be that they have to treat their water before they send it to us. So, a good example would be the CBD processing facility. They were sending us water that had a lot of BOD in it. And so we went around and around with them for quite a while. And ultimately, they put in essentially what amounts to some pre-treatment, meaning they put in some, like a pond with some blowers in it to knock the BOD down. And so we sample when they send it to us. So now we know that they're treating it a little bit before they send it to us. So there are other methods of treating other types of things, depending on what the pollutant is. And so this would just put a process in place where now we can hold that business to a standard and say, okay, in order to be able to send us your water, you have to treat it before you send it to us.
And that's exactly right. And on that note, really the intent, your municipal system there is really set up to treat domestic waste, municipal strength wastewater. So the idea behind the pretreatment is anyone who sends something, who would without pretreatment send you something that isn't municipal strength, they are required to treat it in a way that gets it closer to that municipal strength, so that it's just more in line with what your system's equipped to handle.
Great. Mr. Mayor, you have a question?
Yeah. Closer? How, where do is that line going to be delineated?
So, and Trayton can maybe talk a little bit about this, but like with our the CBD plant. So with them, we actually install, we don't usually sample people's discharge water, but we installed a meter that has the ability to sample the water. And so we have established limits that say we will accept water as long as the constituents or whatever it is that we're testing for are within this range. And so that's where if they were to discharge something to us and it came back and it was out of that range, then we can either, charge them appropriately for us or potentially fine them depending on what the pollutant is. But so there, we would establish essentially limits where they're allowed to discharge within.
Okay.
Yeah, that's 100% correct.
I mean,
And then another comment just on the high flow side of things, there's just a federal trigger where any individual discharger who sends you more than 25,000 gallons per day on average would be also required to be regulated, just because at the higher flows, there's a higher risk there for them to upset your treatment plant.
Yes, Councilman.
I just wanted to make sure I understood with the changes, do they have to go through DEQ first before we can approve them? Then you bring them back to us and then we vote on it?
Yeah, so Anderson Perry's already put together all of the recommended code changes, and that's actually what's taken, gosh, almost a year. Was we sent all of that up to DEQ, and they've done that pre-vetting already. So what we'll be bringing to you has already been through DEQ and gotten their acceptance that this is good code language. Any additions to that, Trayton?
Nope, that's exactly correct. And on that note, I'll just indicate it is a lengthy process because there are several DEQ checkpoints, and they're not always the most responsive, but we're working on keeping on them.
Great.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions on this? Yeah.
Just to clarify, this only will apply to businesses, is that correct?
Correct. And that's again, maybe Trayton, one of my questions, just to kind of clarify a little bit more, was talking a little bit about some of the other ones. I kind of wanted to make sure that you were aware that there's some businesses that you may not otherwise think of as being industrial. So the one that always sticks with me when Trayton mentions it is things like dentists, so they do have metals and some of those types of things. And so it doesn't seem like they're industrial, but they do have some things that we'll just have to make sure that we monitor for.
Yeah. I think the dentist is a good example. And on that note, there is also some flexibility, and we're working as we're developing the program to bake in that flexibility. So depending on the amount of risk involved with the business, there may need to be more oversight. Like dentists, for example, there's a requirement that they have amalgam separators, and that's standard practice for them. So this would just, from a dentist point of view, it just kind of formalize. We just need to check up and make sure that they're maintaining those. They're financially, incentivized to maintain those just because of the capture of that amalgam. But that is a good example. Or like say in the future, you have a brewery comes into town or wants to come into town and set up, you'll have the structure in place to be able to easily accept them. The CBD oil company is another good example. They have really high organic strength and have a really high potential to upset your treatment plan if they screw up their pre-treatment. And so as a result, they require a little more oversight.
So Trayton, are you saying that I'll get to start sending like postcards to all the dentists in town and tell them it's time for their checkup?
Yeah, you'll be able to flip.
That's
flip
exciting.
the
Yeah.
So, no.
We're gonna have to work on that.
Can we find him?
Oh, okay. All right. So any other questions on the industrial pretreatment? Yeah.
Sorry,
Counselor.
other than the CBD plant, have we had a lot of other businesses that have been sort of discharging things that are nasty into our system?
Well, so maybe Trayton can talk a little bit more on the detail of, so we did a system-wide outreach and survey. So it went through all of our existing users and tried to identify the commercial users first off, and then from there, the ones that potentially may be required to go through this process. So Trayton, could you maybe talk a little bit about, roughly how many we think might get involved with this?
Some of that will I guess depend. As of right now, the main concern DEQ has is the CBD oil folks. They're one of your main triggers, if you will, for being required by DEQ to implement the program. Other than that, it would be if you needed a data center, if a data center wanted to hook up and discharge some of their non-contact cooling water, well, that water is frankly probably, depending on where their source is, probably cleaner than what you're seeing anyways. They're still required just because of the high volumes associated with that. So that would be regulated as well underneath this program. They would have to, submit a permit application and meet those permit limits. In their case, your bigger concern would be with like heavy metals and things like that.
Great.
Is this something that's common among municipalities our size?
Drayton, you want to talk a little bit about maybe some other municipalities our size that have this?
I know the city of Prineville is probably a good example. They've just recently gone through this process. I think they're a little bit smaller than y'all, but they're roughly they're similar enough. I think they're about 12 or 13,000 folks. Much smaller than that. I haven't seen it. But that said, it really just depends on the industry. I've seen there's been some talk with some, oh golly, I'm struggling with the name of all of a sudden, some meat packers in, like, for example, in like the Heinz area. If they were to try and connect to the sewer, that would trigger a requirement to have a pretreatment program. I'd say much smaller than Prineville or y'all, though. It starts to make sense to tell those folks they just need to treat it all the way on their own. But because of the size of your system and the capacity that you have that flexibility and that capability to be able to accept it.
And I think
Just on that, just as an example, the city I came from in Iowa, we were about 10,000, and we had a paint manufacturer, and we had an ordinance like this because of that plant. And so I think, like he's saying, it just kind of depends on what's there.
I think also along those lines too, prior to this, we didn't really have any actual industrial users that were on our sewer system. Even Hermiston Foods, they would just largely discharge out to their agricultural fields. And so a lot of the food processing facilities, their flows are so large that they would overwhelm, certainly smaller communities, and we really didn't want them on ours. And so I think it's a higher level of service for us with a city of our size to be able to accommodate industry in this manner. But
Councilman?
Thank you, Mayor. And my question is, since we're talking about water safety, water cleanliness, I think it's abundantly clear that in the background we've had these data centers that have come into town, and we later today have a discussion about joining in on a lawsuit with PFAS. And so I guess just to be direct on this, will this also help or address some of the PFAS that we see in the system?
I'd say this isn't related to PFAS, and I don't really have any concerns with PFAS specific to data centers. But so this is a topic that's been going on for quite a while, and really it was mainly driven by the CBD processing option.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Any others? Okay.
All right, you're free, Trayton. We'll move
All right.
on.
Thank y'all. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Okay, now we'll pull up some of our other slides, and I appreciate Councilor Barone teeing us up on the next topic, which is PFAS. So let's see. Just kind of a couple more things that we want to talk about this evening. We already talked industrial pretreatment. I just want to talk a little bit about PFAS. I want to talk real briefly about our public works space needs. And then I want to talk a little bit about our water supply approach with our aquifer storage and recovery program. Then if we still have time, because we still have got some things to squeeze in there, we can talk a little bit about some public works staffing and then some project updates. So first off, talking about PFAS. So what is PFAS? It's, generally a lot of folks refer to it as forever chemicals. Really, PFAS is just a class of chemicals where those chemicals are specifically designed to be hard to break down in the environment. So, think about if you're, making scrambled eggs in the morning on your, Teflon frying pan, and a chunk of your Teflon comes off into your eggs, you're eating a big dose of PFAS. I mean, that's what Teflon is. It's specifically designed to be really heat resistant so that it doesn't break down when you're cooking it over a flame, that type of thing. There's a lot of other chemicals in that realm as well. Things like, your Gore-Tex jackets, all those types of things. So PFAS, not a new issue, but I'd say it's newly regulated or new-ishly regulated. So then another question, where is it? Generally, PFAS is everywhere. It's all over the place. I would defy you to look and try to find a water source that doesn't at least have some amount of PFAS in it somewhere. So it's everywhere. It's in the city of Hermiston system. It's in every other municipal system in the region. It's in every private well that surrounds us. So it's a abundant chemical that you're going to find pretty much everywhere. Now, this is just to get on folks' radar. The costs associated with dealing with PFAS because of regulation over the last couple of years, which now puts some of our water sources slightly over the limit for what they are regulating for PFAS. It's going to be expensive. So last year, we asked Anderson Perry to put together some analysis on how to get some of those water sources under the limit on the PFAS thresholds. And so their general solution across all of them was generally just filtration. So just putting filtering systems on several of our water sources. Upfront cost for doing that would be in the range of around $23 million. If we financed that over 30 years, it's going to come out to a little over $1 million a year. But in addition to the upfront capital costs, filtration, inherently implies the existence of filters themselves, and those filters need to be replaced on a regular basis. They need to be maintained. It takes staff to do that and a lot of materials. So in addition to the $23 million upfront capital cost, the estimate came back that it would increase operational costs by about $1 million per year. So between those two, the capital, debt service and the ongoing operational costs, we'd be looking at an additional cost of somewhere in the range of around $2 million a year. Now, just for a sense of scale, it's important to understand total annual revenues in the water system are just a shade under $6 million a year. So this would be increasing the total cost on the system somewhere in the range of around 40%. So when we saw those numbers, it was significant. And so I think what the opportunity that this presents is we have our water system master plan. Our water system master plan has a lot of different options and alternatives for water source, water delivery, water storage, all those types of things. And there's a lot of them, particularly on the water source side of things, that the further you get down on the list, the less and less viable they ever were in our minds because of the cost associated with implementing those options. And so when we're looking at otherwise looking at a $23 million upfront cost with $1 million a year in ongoing operational costs, that's where I asked Anderson Perry to go back and really provide us some much more in-depth analysis of some of these other solutions, not just filtration, because I don't think there's any way around some type of significant cost. But I think if we're going to be coming and asking for some significant cost increases and expenses, I'd like to make sure that we've turned over every rock and looked under every opportunity that I think also might be able to benefit the community a lot more. So there's a number of these alternatives, and Anderson Perry is starting on that process now to just look at all those other alternatives. Just one example of one of those types of alternatives would be things like transitioning a number of our large water users who just simply use water for irrigation, transitioning them to just purely irrigation. Because right now we supply potable drinking water to a lot of folks that just water their grass with it. And so I think there's some low-hanging fruit there that we can attack and be able to supply, things like non-potable drinking water or non-potable water for irrigation systems that ultimately bring down some of these costs. So with that, this is just a slide to get the cost in front of you. Make sure that you're aware that PFAS is there. There's no getting away from it. There's no getting around it. It's going to be expensive, but we're going to do a lot of work here over the coming year to try and bring as many options to you for future consideration. So,
Council questions, Council Pearl?
thank you for your presentation on this. I think it's really important for us to see the financials and to really understand kind of the full impact of this. I just started thinking about other communities that are in our area. Like if this is $22 million, I don't understand how it's going to be very difficult for our neighboring communities to be able to even do something like this, especially if it's on an unfunded mandate. Uh, and so I think this puts a really good perspective on what's going on, and I don't even know how feasible this is. I also think, and correct me if I'm wrong, does Pendleton have a data center?
No, they don't.
No, but yet they also had PFAS. So I think
Mhm.
going back to your point, that it's not necessarily tied to data centers. It's everywhere, and so um, I appreciate you guys bringing this forward and giving us things to consider.
Ms. Linton?
Okay, I understand that it's the chemicals, but chemicals had to come from somewhere if it's in a large amount. So I'm wondering, where did all these chemicals come from and how did it get into our water?
I don't know. I mean, that's the shortest answer. It's ubiquitous in the environment. You know, there's PFAS in, you know, water wells in Hermiston. There's PFAS in water wells in Wyoming. There's PFAS. I mean, it's everywhere. And so, I don't believe that there's any one like point source in Hermiston specifically. So to Councilor Barone's point, I think probably the single largest source of PFAS in their system is firefighting foam associated with their airport. But so there's a number of different, you know, sources. It can be from anything, but I don't think there's any one single point source in Hermiston. I think it's just a general ubiquitous contamination.
Okay, thank you.
Others? Councilor Kelso?
Does this, what does this filtering get us? Does this get us just to below the safe level as mandated by the EPA, or does this get us to near zero PFAS, or what does this get us?
I believe that would get us to near zero. So as you can imagine, anytime there's some new regulation, there's also many new profiteers out there with a solution to come along. And so we're certainly getting a lot of sales calls, you know, every water system is. And so I certainly understand where you're going with that in that it's like, look, we don't need to filter it to zero. If the threshold is 10, why don't we take it to 9? And so I think there's alternatives to potentially get to there. But I think with filtration, the way that it works, you can't necessarily just say, we'll only take it to 9. It's like, if you're putting it in, it's going to take you to 0 no matter what. So, but also then to Councilor Barone's point, this is something with filtration that it does scale slightly. So this would be applying filtration to, I want to say 4 water sources. So like, let's say you're Stanfield and you only have 1 well, you know, you wouldn't have to do that on 4 sources. However, you're still going to have the fixed cost of having to have a staff person who knows what they're doing. And, you know, so it's going to scale down somewhat, but yeah, it's going to be expensive for everybody.
Others? So I'll throw this one out there. Where is it working, or where do we know about that's doing this now and is successful?
Well, filtration is just all we're talking about is just different class of chemicals. So there's lots of places for decades who've been doing filtration of all sorts of different things. It's really just focusing specifically on PFAS. So there's no, you know, inherently new filtration process. And I think that's part of the reason why I was like, well, here's, you know, a tried and tested, you know, method. But I think there's other alternatives out there.
So what would be, I mean, what is are we talking you know, the gold standard, like reverse osmosis?
That's one option. Yeah.
I mean, I know.
That's
I
more
know-
expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, you know, I watched the data center out there by Two Rivers. They put one of those in when they first started pulling water, and so I know that those exist in the area. But I also know that they're, you know, just in the household one is exceedingly expensive.
Yeah. Well, and I guess maybe kind of, and I didn't want to get too much into the alternatives. We do have some other things, but just kind of one example is, again, I think only looking at the filtration option, it's like, well, if we're going to be spending a significant amount anyway, let's look at what some other options may be. So in terms of like putting in reverse osmosis or some other type of filtration and treatment plant, if we're going to be doing that anyway, then why don't we just put one in and start utilizing our regional water system allocation that much more if we're going to have to filter it anyway, so we can end up with more water than we had, in the beginning. So there's a lot of different alternatives that I asked them to look into. So I'll be bringing many more back to you in the future.
Look forward to exhilarating conversations on that.
Yes, yes.
All right, what's next?
Nope. Okay, we already talked IPP. Let's see. Just real quick, our public workspace needs. Just wanted to get this on your radar. Something that we're going to be talking about over the coming years. But our existing public works spaces for staff, haven't really changed much in the last 45-ish years. So the current, public works facility has been there since at least pre-1980s. And when I say public works, that's the streets and water and parks and recreation facility. Also, the recycled water treatment plant's been in its same location since the 80s. At that time, our population was about half of what it is now. Since that time, we've added a lot of other components to our systems, like sewer lift stations and water booster pumps and storage tanks and those types of things. And we've added staff, but we really haven't added any capacity for staff in terms of the physical locations. And so, let's see, just go to the next slide. This is just an aerial image of the city from 1994. You can see that little tiny yellow pin on there. That is where the public works yard is currently. And so since that time, we've added a lot of community around it. So that red outline is our current footprint. That's our current property out at Public Works. And so I think there's some considerations that I think the Public Infrastructure Committee is going to be chewing over in the coming years. Is that really the best location for a facility even? So there's a lot of traffic concerns being right there, vehicles coming out onto Elm. A lot of times we're pulling trailers. Vehicles are coming in, at high rate of speed. Additionally, we're getting more and more surrounded by residential uses, and we're, kind of an industrial type of a use. And then finally, one of the other components to consider is, back in the 70s, that was the edge of town. That was the low rent district. It was just cheap land out there because it was on the edge of town. But now we're fronting on a state highway. We're surrounded by the rest of the community. It may behoove the city to simply look at those buildings and say, well, they're kind of fully depreciated as it is. It may be better for us to just simply sell the real estate and move somewhere else. So those are all things that I think just wanted to get on your radar that I think we're going to be looking at here over the coming years. So now this is going to take about 22 minutes. So I wanted to make sure to leave myself time. I know exactly how long it's going to take because it's me talking, but it's not just me talking right now. This is actually going to be a video of me talking to the governor's data center advisory committee 2 weeks ago, I think. So the governor's pulled together this data center advisory committee with experts from around the state. And so I was there presenting on water issues, and specifically they asked about ASR. And so I felt like a lot of the questions and content that we were going to cover there, I think would be helpful for the council to fully see. So we'll just let that roll now. I think, we were invited to come talk about innovative ways that water is used in Hermiston, but I think it's probably water is used in Hermiston, but I think it's probably important for us to start off just by, kind of understanding how is water used in Hermiston in the first place. I was just listening to OPV just the other day, and they had a gal on there talking about backyard gardening, and she was talking about, she was in Portland and she just lets her raspberries do their own thing and they just, thrive. But her friend in Madras, if they don't irrigate them, they die. I mean, that is a fundamental reality that I think everybody needs to understand. There's a big difference in how water is used. Nikki from Hillsborough mentioned how they use water in Hillsborough. Very different customer makeup and how the customers use water in Hermiston versus Hillsborough. So important to understand that. So this graph that I put together, that chart up there, I think it's important to kind of quantify some of the different types of uses. And kind of the best way that I came up with is to quantify those uses in terms of acres that they're used. And so I think I put this into a memo. I sent it into the group. I don't know if it's been distributed, but so looking at Hermiston's actual water consumption just by a handful of different uses, I think is really telling. And what you find out of this is that really the driver of water consumption in Hermiston is all irrigation. Whether that's, purposefully irrigating for crop production or just simply irrigating turf. So when we look at this, Hermiston has 6 K-12 or 6 elementary schools on our municipal water system. When we look at the typical elementary school in Hermiston, it's using over 1.5 million gallons of water per acre per year. And so this is gross water consumption over the course of an entire year. Additionally, you can see food processing uses over 1 million gallons per acre. Large medical complex in Hermiston uses over 1 million gallons of water per acre. But also one that might surprise folks is single family residential. We get about 5 housing units per acre in Hermiston when we see new residential development. And so a new single family subdivision is going to be using water a little over 800,000 gallons per acre for single family residential. And that actually tracks really closely with commercial agriculture. I think our homeowners are poor irrigators. They actually use more water watering their lawns than, commercial ag. They've gotten really good with how they use water over time. And so, but you can see how closely correlated those are. And then, on the far right-hand side, you see the hyperscale data center campuses that we have on our City of Hermiston municipal system. Acre for acre, they're using, about 1/5 as much water as your typical single family residential development does. So we go to the next slide. So then this is taken from.
Do you have that without the per acre bit?
I can get to it. It's actually in that memo that we have, and I can get that.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, because when I see some of those numbers that were thrown out earlier, like or just a data center uses 2 billion gallons of water, that's like makes me choke. I mean, so what ours uses. I mean, it's like 1% of that. I mean, so I think what is a data center is, would be all over the board. And so for our hyperscale data centers, way less water consumption than what some of these numbers are that we've been seeing. So, and you'll see some of that as it comes out here. So next slide. So this is just from our City of Hermiston municipal SCADA system. So that's looking over the course of an entire 12 months. That's total water consumption, in gallons over the course of a year. And so you can see this nice curve there that, would generally follow something like a temperature curve in Hermiston. So that shows, where a lot of it is being used, it, follows the temperature gradient in Hermiston. So we go to the next slide. So that's just kind of all uses. So this is showing, on the City of Hermiston's water system, that's actual data center cloud industry demand in Hermiston. So you can see in the wintertime, kudos to our hyperscalers in our community. They don't use any water in the winter, like at all. I mean, you can see it. I mean, that's like the actual numbers that we're looking at there. November through February, they're not using anything, but it, goes up, during the cooling months. So next slide. This is a snapshot from what I would refer to as a typical 5-person household in Hermiston. I know because that's actually my house's. So I told you we're bad irrigators, but kids like their nice green lawn. So that's my house's water consumption over the course of the year. Next slide.
Oh, is it for really?
That's literally my house.
That's literally your house.
There you go. You can look it up. Yeah, that's transparency.
Yeah. Transparent.
I'll give you my address. So this is.
So
Yeah.
that is a curve of demand. The very first one that you showed, how is water or when is it used? I think also had a quantity. Yeah.
Yep.
And do you have the quantities on the?
I do, but I took those off on purpose for this.
Oh.
But we can get those.
We can get those.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So yeah, that's the residential. So this is just the medical center. So, you can notice here, January, February, November, December, medical centers, they don't really have any, intrinsic reason why they would be using water differently in the summertime for medical purposes. But they have huge, 20+ acres of turf that they're irrigating. And so you can see, that medical center. So next slide. And then this is the K-12 demand, which is interesting. You may notice these bars are green, the last ones were blue. That's just a function of our SCADA system. That's because it's showing the green one. That's what we refer to as their high flow meter. So they specifically have a meter that is high flow that is just for tracking their irrigation demands and providing the irrigation demands. It's a larger meter. You can actually see there is on there a very small sliver of blue. included in there, and that's actually their drinking water usage. So it's interesting that for an elementary school, the 2 months that they use the most water is when there's no kids there, because they're just keeping all the grass alive.
Oh, well. Yeah. All right.
So that just kind of charts those different types, over the course of a year. So next slide. So when we look at, when is water in Hermiston used, that's the entire city of Hermiston. We're looking at in July, we're putting out 250 million gallons of water, but in January, February, we're putting out 40 million gallons of water. So we see about a 6.5 time peak factor just to meet that peak demand in the summertime. We've got to keep everybody's grass green. So next slide. Another way of looking at that would just be, you could consider that to be that there's really just wasted infrastructure capacity that's sitting there for 9+ months out of the year, just waiting for us to be able to hit that peak demand when in, late June 2021, when it was 118 degrees and 9% humidity in Hermiston with the Pacific Northwest heat dome. That's what we're planning for. We're sitting on all that infrastructure the rest of the year.
Yeah, forgive me for the elementary question. I'm more of a energy power guy. Does water have like the equivalent of like generation, transmission, distribution? And if so, where does most of that fixed infrastructure, what does that represent? What is that infrastructure that is?
Yeah, so I have another slide that I can show you. Yeah, it'll probably answer that a little better. So next slide. So we're kind of solving for that peak and enter aquifer storage and recovery. So that's, I think, why I got invited to come talk today. So next slide.
I think that's why you got.
Yeah, so aquifer storage and recovery, I mean, we could go into it, a lot, but it's really pretty simple, just really dumbing it down. We're just taking treated drinking water. That's probably the most important for folks to understand. It's the treated potable drinking water that would otherwise go out in our system. We drill a well and we pour the water down the well and we store it in the aquifer underground. And then when we need it, we pull it right back out, just like a normal well otherwise. So that is aquifer storage and recovery in a nutshell. So next slide. Important to keep in mind, I don't want anybody to leave thinking that, wow, Mark's this like cutting edge, futurist, this is brand new stuff. ASR has been around for a long time. And we're not the first ones, doing this. In fact, Hermiston ourselves, we looked at ASR technology extensively with a couple of our wells back in the mid-90s, 30 years ago. And so it's just one of those technologies that it's, expensive to do these kinds of things. And so given our portfolio of other source options previously, it just made sense for us to pursue developing those other options first. But, there's a lot of other communities in the Northwest that are using ASR. This is not an exhaustive list, but, city of Kennewick, it's a city of 70,000 people, just 25 miles north of us. They've been using it for a long time. Pendleton, about 25 miles east of us, they've been using it for a couple of decades now. Also, the Dalles and Prineville also using ASR.
And are you just re-injecting this water in those months when you're not at peak use?
So I'll get to what our plan is, because we can do a lot of ways, but I'll show you what our plan is to do. So next slide. So this may get to the question earlier that kind of talks about the infrastructure that is necessary. So this is a highly conceptual schematic, but generally speaking, we're pulling water from the Columbia River. The city of Hermiston operates our regional water system pump station down on the river. So we pull water out of the Columbia River and then use a heck of a lot of electricity to power these really major pumps and motors to shove that water south. It says 42-inch pipeline. That's diameter, not the length. It's a 9-mile long pipeline. 42-inch diameter. Yeah, that would be nice. But, so we shove it 9 miles and vertically several hundred feet to our regional water treatment plant. And that's where we again have a lot of expensive infrastructure where we treat it to a potable drinking water standard and then deliver it out through our system. What we've just done here in the last couple of years is we've drilled a new ASR injection well so that we will then begin starting on Monday to begin pouring water down that new ASR well. And begin to recharge the aquifer so that in future years, we'll be able to pull that water out when we need it to supply and meet that peak.
Did you say starting Monday? Like, as in?
We just today at 11 o'clock got our limited license approved. So I just got that in.
Congratulations.
Yeah, the timely, yeah.
Right?
If we hadn't, maybe I wouldn't be making this presentation. Next slide. So this kind of gets to that question of, so what's our plan? And again, I think it's important to keep in mind, this is Hermiston's plan. This is not a data center specific plan. So if you click again, this kind of speaks to what our plan for injection is. So The blue line, that's showing what our citywide Hermiston, demand curve looks like. And so what our intention is, even though we could inject, during the summer months, right now our plan is to only be injecting about 60 million gallons of water every month from October through March, roughly. So really just targeting those times of the year outside of our peak already. So next slide. So our plan, so the reason I say this is Hermiston's plan, not a data center plan. So our plan is to store 360 million gallons a year when it's not needed by the 3Fs, the fish farmers and families. So that 360 million gallons, that's Hermiston's water. We plan on supplying some data centers using some of that water, but that's not all, that's not all going to data centers. Okay, so we've been able to leverage the investment from our data center partners to then piggyback off the back of that, and we're planning to maximize that as much as we can for the community and store as much water as we can for our future use. So don't take that 360 million gallons and think that's all for data centers. That's mostly actually for the community. Yeah.
Are there any losses associated with this? I'm thinking of this as a battery. Typically, there's some conversion loss. Does that?
Yeah,
basically come out?
so we plan about 5% is gonna stay in the aquifer, yeah, so.
All right, 5% is gonna stay in the aquifer.
No, so 5% is what we will have to leave in the aquifer, and I'll get a little bit in the future in how much we plan.
And there's also energy production pumps and all, so I guess there's some water use there. Water use there.
Yeah.
Have you done that math as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get into that
Okay,
now,
all right.
but there is, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And the new well that you're just starting next week, does that have capacity for the 360 million gallons? Do you need to draw?
Yeah, so
a lot more.
Yeah, so the well's done. So the well's done. What we're doing next week is we're starting to pour over water down the well. So we've been working with OWRD and DEQ for about 2 years now, getting it all, making sure that they're happy with everything. And so yeah, next week is when we're just gonna start pouring the water down the well. And so we've done a lot of the hydraulic analysis. And so that's part of what we're doing is we're gonna be pouring water down, leave it there, watch the aquifer, then pour more water down, watch the aquifer, pour more water down, watch the aquifer. So our geologists feel very confident with how much
That
we'll
one
be able,
well
we'll be able to support that.
Do you have an estimated capacity of that salt water?
Not off the top of my head, but I guess maybe more to what the question was, is that 360 million gallon figure, that's more driven off of what our treatment capacity is to be able to pour water down, more so than what the aquifer capacity was. Yeah. And also just it's driven by, we could produce 60 million gallons of water per month and put it down the hole. We could probably, do that during the summertime, but so. Next slide. So that was our plan, really our strategy as it pertains to data centers, is that we really intend on all future data centers in Hermiston. And we plan on supplying them with only water that we pulled from ASR that we stored in the winter. So the summertime, we plan on not supplying any future data centers with any water that got pulled out of the Columbia River in the summer. So we plan on only supplying them with water that we pulled out, put it in the ground all winter long, and then we pull it back out of the ground in the summertime. So that leaves the water in the Columbia River in the summer for the fish farmers and families. And that's a picture of my 5-year-old using some of our local Columbia River water resources right downstream of the discharge.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
This maybe is Dr. Judy. The water that's in the ground must get cold. Does that water, when it comes back out, have the opportunity to improve the coldness of water resources in the places?
Yeah, so it's interesting, and this I think one of the reasons why OWRD really liked our ASR is ours actually has a component of what they're calling aquifer conditioning. So the specific aquifer, and this is getting really down in the weeds, that we're in is really warm. So it's like 85 degrees and really sulfury. And so the water that we're putting into the ground is actually having a water cooling conditioning aspect to it. So we're building this big bubble of cold water, and then we'll be sucking water out of there. And that's one of the reasons we'll be able to tell if we ever get into native, we'll be able to tell the temperature difference.
Wow.
You said that there'd be no summer withdrawals for data centers or for the whole community?
So our intention is that any new data centers, we're not gonna be pulling any water in the summertime.
Cause it'll come from the.
Yeah, we'll have pulled it in October through February, injected it, and so that's the plan. Next slide. And so this, getting a little bit off topic, but so this kind of gets maybe to some of your questions too about, electricity, because I know a lot of you folks have more of a power background, but one of the benefits of ASR also is data centers are paying the freight for some of this water that's now available for other uses after it's been used in the data center industry. So, on the right-hand side, that's the schematic showing how it gets there, but on the left-hand side, that's just showing the topographical change where we're pulling it from the Columbia River, shoving it 9 miles south and 350 feet vertically. And so, farmers in our area, they only have the ability to pay, for water that hasn't been pushed that far. The data center industry, they have a lot higher tolerance for the price of water. And so after they use it and they discharge it out, that water becomes available for use by agriculture. So I kind of view that as data centers paying the freight to move a lot of this water 9 miles south and 300 feet vertically that can be beneficially reused after we've made it to be able to be reused. Next slide. Great. And then this will be kind of my last point. Data centers plus ASR really does equal water positive. So I missed a U there, but Hermiston is located in the lower Umatilla Basin groundwater management area. And so you've seen a lot of those maps thrown on the slide earlier, so I won't get too much into that. But generally speaking, in our area, we have declining aquifers. And a lot of that has its history going back to the 1970s with relatively affordable power and people being able to now start mining the groundwater by pulling that water up out of the aquifer. And so that image that you see there, that is in Hermiston, and you can see not improved with agriculture. So if you go to the next slide, that's the exact same area from this year. That last image was from 1970. That image is from 2025. And so, when we talk about some of this land, farmland being converted for data centers, I would almost say your time scale is too narrow, because that land was not farmland in the 60s. The only thing that made it viable to become farmland was the fact that we were able to now start accessing groundwater and mining the aquifer and pulling that water out. Because before the 1970s, it was shrub steppe habitat, and so it wasn't farmland prior to this. So
Mark, we heard from others though that after the data center uses it, sometimes the water has higher concentrations of some salts and other things. So does that work for agriculture?
So we have a project that we're working on with DEQ right now to accept discharge water from our hyperscalers and put it back into irrigation canals. So we've been working with them for quite a while. It's not ready yet, but we certainly see a path forward to be able to read that. That's one of the questions that we're working toward. But I think that's what they'd like to see is we treat it so that it can be beneficial. Yeah.
I wonder if I'm understanding this correctly. It was not farmland. Irrigation made it farmland, but then I'm thinking back to that water intensity chart that the water use per acre by a data center is significantly lower than water use per acre by commercial agriculture. So is effectively the net result that the water impact of a data center on, say, that parcel is lower now than it was when it looked like that, and maybe just a little bit higher than the image before.
I'm glad you asked, and I have a slide for that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
You can see it
So,
again.
that's right here.
That'd be a great question, to be honest with you.
So that's actually this slide. So, so if we were just looking at, say, 100 acres of commercial agriculture, if they're using 815,000 gallons per acre per year, then taking that field, that one in that picture was mining the aquifer. If we take that field, if we took 100 acres off of the aquifer, now you're leaving 82 million gallons a year in the aquifer. Then if we take that same 100 acres and supply it with water from our ASR system, where we're not going to be pulling water for that data center in the summertime, we're just supplying it with water that we've injected into the aquifer all winter long, then we pulled it back out in the summertime, then, so we're not seeing any extraction from the aquifer for that data center. But on top of that, one of the things we're really proud of working with our data center partners on is that in our water supply agreements, Nikki mentioned, that we have water supply agreements, that as part of the ASR project, they're committed to every year putting 100 million gallons of water into the aquifer, more than what they actually pulled out. So that we're going to be injecting water enough to be able to meet their needs, plus 100 million gallons every single year. So that's their commitment. And so then to that other point about some of that discharge water, if say we only got 10 million gallons per year out of the back end of that, you're looking at about 110 million gallons of water. So the last slide there, just kind of the balance sheet would be, if you were to take that 100 acres, on the next slide. So you're looking at the net impact of taking 100 acres of commercial ag, turning it into a data center. The benefit to the aquifer would be in the range of 190 million gallons a year.
So this is actual recharge.
Yeah, I think, I mean, that's really, it's benefiting.
Recharge.
On
the
a,
aquifer.
on a per acre analysis. It's not, I mean, it's not a Hermiston wide analysis
All right, we can,
thing on 100, for 100 acres.
I was gonna say, we can pause it there. There's just a couple more questions, but yeah, so I didn't have too much else this evening. We're bumping up against 7 o'clock. So any additional questions about our ASR stuff? I just thought it was a good presentation, and rather than re-give the exact same one, we just show you the video.
Councilor Brown. Okay.
I just wanted to say, a couple of weeks ago, I got to see City Manager Smith up in DC, and I also want to thank you right now, Mr. Morgan. You guys represented us really well. I mean, just even watching that clip, you're at a state or at a state board meeting, and you're presenting about the good things that Hermiston's doing, the ideas, the creativity that we have, and you guys did a very good job making our city look good. So we're doing great things, and I love that we're sharing that with our community.
Great.
Any others? All right, looks like you're off the hook, sir. All right, we're gonna go ahead and close the work session, and we will re-adjourn in 3 minutes. Everybody here, ready to go? All right, we're gonna call the regular meeting of the Hermiston City Council, Monday, April 13th edition to order. We have a quorum. Counselor Meyer is excused. We wish her well. Would everybody please join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Any changes to the agenda?
No changes, sir.
All right, as a reminder, seeing as how we have a half full gallery, please, hats off, and also, if you have phones on you, please put them on silent. Thank you very much. Okay, with that, at this point in time, the first opportunity, anybody wishing to bring anything before the council that is not on the agenda is asked to please do the following. Limit your comments to not more than 5 minutes. State your name, place of residence for the record, and direct your comments to me. At this time. Anybody? Figured as much.
Rick's turning on. There we go.
Greetings.
Greetings. Karen Primer, 1085 West Madrona. I'm here tonight speaking to you all about the National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. Sorry, can't read. The outside time devoted to education by our dispatchers and to speak about a couple of members of our team that have accomplished a very significant achievement. Overview, the National Public Safety Telecommunications Week was originated in 1981. I think I've talked to you before about that. The chief and everybody thought it would be great to turn all the 911 phones over to the dispatchers while they all went on lunch, and that was not a good plan. So they worked together and cohesively have come up with 1 week a year, usually the first week in April, for telecommunications recognition. I wanted to kind of give you a look at our local center, and I have telecommunicator Cindy Lemon with us. She was also acting sergeant. She is in the running for one of the positions that we have open for that, so we're congratulate her. We're hopeful. And then we have Sergeant Cherry Hutchinson's with us too. So I kind of wanted to give you a brief overview of what we have going on. We have 24 slated positions. We're sitting right at 21. The good news is this week we are hiring a full and a part-time on-call, so that'll bring our numbers up. The downside is in May we lose 1 full-time to on-call, so it's 2 forward, 3 back. We dispatch for 18 different entities, police, fire, and EMS across the county. In addition, we have partners to include entities such as Tribal, Union Pacific Railroad, the United States Marshal Service, and we also work very closely with the U.S. Forest Service. Last year, we handled a whopping 143,061 calls, of which 29,434 of them were emergency calls. The rest were all non-emergency. And I say non-emergency, but we do have alarm companies that call our 10 digits, so that could be an emergency. And we also handled over 101, I believe it was, text to 911 calls. And I don't know if you guys know that, but you can text 911 in Umatilla County. This does not include all of the radio transmissions, as my partners will attest to. That explodes, especially when we have a big event. I kind of wanted to also talk about our dispatchers. You'll see the little colorful bags that you guys have. They participate in a number of community events, including parades, different Faith in Blue. We've also done the Pendleton Roundup Parade. That's a lot of water we hand out. I forget how many cases last year we went through, and it's constant running for sure. We also have partnered with Umatilla County Fire District 1. They have got a public safety trailer that's going to be showcased out this year. What they have is gotten a grant for a mobile telephone, And basically, the kids will be able to dial 911 on a cell phone because they're not old like me and use the dial ones. So they'll actually be able to communicate and ask certain questions from the dispatcher who will be on the other end. So we're pretty excited about that. Now on to the milestone that I was speaking about. I am admittedly biased, as I think every member of my team is a shining star and amazing beyond belief. And we have achieved a standard in Oregon that exceeds quite a bit of a understatement for sure. These dedicated dispatchers have achieved the status as Excellence in Dispatch, also known as EID, from NENA, which is the National Emergency Numbers Corporation. Numbering Association. What's interesting is in the entire state of Oregon, there's only 3 dispatchers who hold this certification. 2 of them from our own county, and our 3rd is on track. So that's pretty cool. It's a nationally recognized certification. And that doesn't stop there either. Cindy Lemon got hers first. Our other person isn't able to be here tonight. It's Rachel Haller, but she also worked a lot of hours. Both of these ladies did, and they're very passionate about wellness and critical incident intervention. They hold additional certifications for that. So I would like to talk a little bit about Rachel real brief. She started in 2019 with our agency. She got quarter dispatcher of the quarter for the last quarter of last year. And as I said, she's very passionate about mental health and especially dispatcher wellness. So we promote that a lot. She has over 719 hours of documented training with the state of Oregon. She's between her and Cindy, they've also been working on creating a wellness team in-house, which has been very impactful for our dispatchers. I appreciate that. Cindy just hit her 5 years recently, which was amazing for us. She is, I'm going to get this wrong, CISM, certified in critical incident stress management. She's also a member of our regional peer support team, which is very beneficial, not just for dispatchers, but across the county for all law enforcement passions. She also has the NENA EID. She holds a basic telecommunications and emergency medical dispatch and is currently working on her portfolio to get her intermediate. Sergeant Cherry Hutchinson has been with us just over 7 years. I'm very proud of that. She got promoted to sergeant in January of 2025. She also has amassed, and I do mean amassed, 766 hours of documented DPSST training. She also was another first for us. She was the first one in the state of Oregon to be awarded the APCO NENA prestigious Hearts of 911 Award in August of 2023 for her work with our community partners, Umatilla County Sheriff's Office, but when we adopt families in need. But also she works very closely with Jasmine Strong. She sorts a lot of toys and wraps each one, I kid you not, with care and with name tags. She makes sure every child has what they have on the list. She involves a bunch of the jailers, corrections, you name it. She pulls us all in, and it's great. So we really appreciate that. She's been very deeply vested in her community, not just here, but along and throughout her life, as well as her husband, Marshall. They have mentored and fostered over 50 kids in their lifetime, which has been really beneficial. It's very amazing. So what does this mean for you guys, the takeaway? The advanced capabilities of these professionals translate directly to safer communities and more effective emergency situations and operations for you. The intense crisis intervention and de-escalation training mastered by dispatcher Rachel Haller ensures that volatile situations can often be stabilized by phone, reducing risk for responding field units. The strategic source management developed through NENA EID program held by both by Dispatcher Haller and Dispatcher Lemon means that fire, medical, and police assets are deployed with maximum precision. The comprehensive wellness and team building leadership provided by Cindy and Cherry combats the severe stress of the profession, ensuring Umatilla County retains a resilient and highly trained and comprehensive 911 workforce. So I would just like to acknowledge these incredible men and women of the Umatilla County Dispatch Center. I appreciate everything that they do daily. So please join me in saying thank you to these true first responders. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Primer. You look vaguely familiar. No, as most folks know, I may have come across some of these folks in the past. All I can say when it comes to dispatch folks is, wow, what a job they do. The stuff that Captain Primer highlighted is just a small portion of the work that they do on a daily basis. And this week being Telecommunicators Week is something that is amazing. It's the work that they do is so hard, so stressful. I know that the career expectancy of a dispatcher is not very long because of that stress. And so thank you, ma'am, and thank all your folks from the Hermiston City Council. Anybody else wish to bring anything before the council? Seeing none. Moving along, consent agenda. We have consent agenda items A through N. Is there anyone wishing to remove any of those from the for later? Yes, ma'am.
I would like to remove N.
Okay, moving into later. Any others? Okay, so can I get is there any council questions on A through M? Public comment on A through M? Seeing none. Council.
We have a public.
Everything except N. Okay, then please.
My name is Karen Jones. I live at 1010 West Highland Avenue in Hermiston, and I'm here this evening to ask you to support joining the litigation with the PFAS. Is that correct? Yes.
That's on a later agenda item, ma'am.
Oh, so it's not on this one?
This is not A through M.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Yep. Any others? Yes, sir. Yes, it is. That's not part of this one. That'll be the next thing we talk about. All right. Any other public comment on A through M? Seeing none. Council comments on A through M? Seeing none. We've removed that. Motion to approve consent agenda items A through M.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Councilor McCarthy, seconded by Councilor Hayward. Roll call?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, A through M is approved unanimously. Consent agenda item N, East Airport Road renaming establishment of hearing date. Councilor Litton, you wish to have it removed.
Yes, I did. The reason I believe that when we discussed this, we had said about both streets, we were going to discuss both streets, Airport Road and then the other Airport Way. And I believe that's what, this,
Ma'am, hold off. Go ahead.
okay. And so I'm wondering, was I mistaken on that when we discussed it before? We had both streets and we were going to discuss which one we would, change. But this here came out to where it's only just the one, no?
From a staff standpoint, my understanding was we only discussed the renaming of Airport Road. There was some public discussion, maybe on social media about both, but not, that wasn't what the direction staff felt we got was anything to do with Airport Way.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so in regards to East Airport Road, establishment of hearing date, any council questions? Councilor Barone.
Just to make it clear, and so this, my question is, this line item is to establish a hearing date. We're not making any changes or anything today. Is that right?
That's correct. The proposed item is just to establish a date for discussion, make sure everybody is aware of that date, and then a decision would be made whether any change would be made at that point.
Okay,
Thank you.
any other council questions? Okay, public comment. This is where
Hello, I'm Gary Culp. I
Mr.
have a shop on the corner, 1200 East Airport Road. So this meeting is just to have another meeting, correct?
basically,
And so it's going to have it anyway, going to have the meeting anyway.
yeah, this.
So any
particular-
comments we have are irrelevant right now?
No,
Okay, so the one question, because I talked to Councilman Linton and I talked to Jackie Myers today, and she's in Las Vegas, by the way. Did you know that?
no.
And I just wanted to make sure that they all had the letter that I had written. Did you guys all get them?
Yes, yes.
If not, I printed a bunch today. And I'm the one that got the petition of 35 signatures. And for the record, there's not one person that wants to change their address at all. And the one thing I want to say, this was litigated through the county 9 years ago. And Byron Smith was up there. And the question was that the two roads, because you guys have had all kinds of different reasons to want to change it. Okay, and back then you had two roads close together, but one was a county road and then the county gave it to the city. Now you guys can change it if you want. The county didn't change it. But what I want to know is First Place and First Street are two similar named roads that are right next to each other for a mile. Why would you worry about Airport Road and Airport Way when you don't do anything about First Place and First Street?
I don't have an answer.
Anybody ever think of that?
It's, again, this is your time for
And
comment.
by
We're
the
not
way,
answering.
today I Googled and the address are First Place and First Street, the bowling alley and other businesses along there. And I was just curious about that, why that was such a big worry up there when that's not. So anyway, when you guys have another meeting, I'll read all of the changes that a personal and or business, unless you want me to read them now, but I don't think you want to hear them. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say, okay? Thank you.
Appreciate your comments, sir.
Hi, my name is Cruz Correa, and I appreciate the work you guys do. But I think that this is, what I take it is that somebody was getting their packages at the wrong address. That's what stirred this up. I'm at 1350 East Airport Road. I've been there since 1994. In the whole time that I've been there, since then, I've probably in one hand have probably received packages from somebody else at my business, okay? And I believe that this could all be worked out without any name changes. I sent some pictures. There's emails to everybody, but I sent some pictures to City Councilor Alan Hayward, a little bit ago. And if he can share those pictures or whatever, I think the businesses that, or maybe it's just one business on Airport Way that wants the change because he didn't get his packages. I don't know. Why are we deciding to, or are you trying to decide to change the name? What brought this on?
Again, sir, this is public comment. This isn't question and answer.
Pardon me?
This is public comment, not question and answer.
Okay, anyway, as I drove out there, I believe there's different entities, state, county, and city, that maybe could do a little better job of pointing out which is which, okay? You drive out on 395 and you got a little picture of the airport with an arrow pointing. But then you got a little bitty sign that isn't hardly seen from the road that says that's Airport Way. You drive down Airport Way, there isn't any signs on Airport Way on Airport Way that tells us what businesses are out there on Airport Way. I mean, I do deliveries, okay? We run all over the US, okay? So you're driving by and sent, you get close to the airport there, to the buildings. Building number 1, no, not even a number, like 13 or 1200 Airport Way. Second building, nothing on it. Third building, nothing. Fourth building, there's letters that you can't even read from the picture. You know, so I think it's the responsibility, not though, I'm thinking it's a waste of time for everybody. You ought to go back to the people that wanted to change this and say, hey, why don't you guys just get better signage? I saw bigger lettering on houses in town than what these businesses are putting on the side of their buildings. There's like 8 buildings out there, none of them have signs on them. That would alleviate that problem. That would alleviate the city having to pay more money, you know, wasting time to, I'm sure you guys got better things to do than this. As you know, like I say, I've been there since 1994, and there's only been like, if that's the issue, there's only been, like say, that I can recall, and I was always good enough to say, hey, I've got your package, and I would take it to them. But, you know, I just think it's a big waste of time. You know, funds, time, and like with Gary, I've got thousands and thousands of customers across the US. I got to report the federal, you know, the state, the county, insurance companies where my trucks are garaged. So if I start making changes, it's not just like walking down to the mailbox and saying, I want to change the address. It's going to take a lot for me to satisfy the federal government, the state government agencies, all because I think should be the responsibility of the businesses to put up a big, beautiful sign like we got for Hermiston. If they're proud of their business, let's put up a sign. Let them put up a sign. Let's not go changing streets. You know, it's been there. People are familiar with it. Okay, and I thank you for your time.
Thanks, sir.
Good evening. My name is Jody Oswald. I live at 1600 East Airport Road. I've been there approximately about 30 years. I'm going to save most of my comments for our next meeting, but it's interesting that if Gary Culp hadn't reached out to me, I was not notified of any of this happening. So that to me is kind of a little bit of a red flag that people on my street may not have even known this was happening, and all of a sudden we would expect to figure out how to change. And I don't have a business as big as these other 2 gentlemen, but I'm self-employed. I have my business in my house, so not only would I have to change my personal but I also would have to change my business. And we're talking veterans and social security, and I wouldn't even know where to start. But, so I'll save most of my other comments for the next meeting, but I just wanted to point out, I was not notified that this was even going to be an issue. So maybe next time, let the residents know. Thank you.
Nick Moses, 2000 East Airport Road. I don't have a business on the road, but back in the late 50s, my grandparents went up to the woods. They cut the trees down. They took them to my grandma's brother's sawmill in Pendleton. They made all the rough cut lumber and they built the house that I live in now. My grandparents raised my dad, my uncle, my Aunt Chris in that house. And now I'm raising my family in that house. And I'd like to be 2000 East Airport Road. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Any other public comment?
Karen Jones, 1010 West Highland Avenue, Hermiston, Oregon. I don't live on East Airport Road or have a business there, but I do sympathize with the people who live there and who operate businesses. This is going to be a huge unfair burden to put on those people to have to make all of the changes that are involved. And I did read the staff report and the report from Anderson Perry, and the comment that someone spoke to a person at the post office who said, oh, you're not really going to have to worry about filling out forwarding forms because the mail people here know pretty much where everybody lives and where their businesses are, so it's not going to be an issue. That is just ludicrous because it's going to be a huge issue for these people. It's going to be a financial burden for them, and it's going to be a huge time burden for them. And I agree, there should be better signage. And if you're going to change the names with those streets, then you need to look at the other streets in Hermiston that are similar, just like First Street and First Place, instead of singling these out. But there do need to be much better signs that are clear where the airport's at, because I drove out and looked on both roads too for signs, and it's very difficult. The city of Hermiston sign is very nice, but we really need a bigger sign just devoted to the airport, that's the airport road or airport way where the airport is located. But I'm asking you to consider not even moving forward with the hearing, to just table the issue like the county did. Thank you.
Hi, I worked at the airport. My name's Lisa Sturgeon. And the biggest problem is that there's a few businesses that get packages every day. And it seems like the most valuable ones or whatever are getting delivered to the wrong street. I personally, when I was working out there, had a set of CDs that were irreplaceable. And they were delivered to the lady at 1600 Airport Road. And for whatever reason, she couldn't get a hold of me. I couldn't find out where these CDs had been or anything else. And she finally was able to get a hold of me at Gorge Aviation because 1600 Airport Way is the main terminal of the airport. And anyways, I want to thank her. I didn't get a chance to thank her for those CDs because they were for blueprints for a 1942 Taylorcraft aircraft, and the person that was loaning them to me personally copied them, had to go to the Smithsonian, get special permission to copy them. So we were able to get them back because he was starting to get pretty upset because they wasn't allowed to go in and make fresh copies of those or anything. It's very confusing for the two roads being so close. And personally, I don't care if they change Airport Way to something else. It's, there's a lot of when the fair is going on and the rodeos all summer long and everything. We get a number of trailers, horse trailers and stuff, going down Airport Way. And fortunately, the end of the road down there is still wide enough that they can turn around and stuff. But they get down there because they're missing the sign, the little sign for the EOTech. So there again, it's, having big enough signage to grab people's attention. And personally, I don't think most of the people that deliver our mail can read here in town because I live at 962 West Cody Avenue. Well, there's a house 962 West Joseph, which is 1 block away. And for years, we were getting each other's mail. Okay, there's a big difference between Joseph and Cody. So a lot of it is delivery people don't read the entire address or whatever and take pride in their jobs, I guess. So if you're going to have if everybody wants to make a change, there's only the Head Start School, Ross Electric, and basically the airport, and there's two main companies operating besides the airport at the airport. So that's a whole lot less people to change their address or something. Either that or we put better signs up. But anyways, that's the problem is, we're having thousands of dollars worth of equipment and parts and everything delivered to the airport. And if they don't get there, we have a hard time finding them. So thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, council comments. Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you. I just thought it would be appropriate to bring it up in the agenda item, because I know not everybody always takes advantage of the packet online, but we are suggesting a May 11th hearing date for this to be considered. Just felt that should be important to be mentioned.
Okay. Any other council comments? Councilor Linton?
I'd say I live on 111 West Beach. Like something was getting mail from 111 West BB. And so that is something that happens here in town as well. Hasn't happened a lot, but one time I had the postal inspector show up at my house. I was getting ready to leave. And I was telling them, well, I'm getting ready to take it up there, but they come to my house, I've gone to theirs. And so I'm wondering if this is a time where I can make a motion that we table this, or do I have to wait to do a vote on whether or not we're going to do the May 11th hearing? Oh, I'm sorry, I turned my mic on. I hope everyone heard what I said. Okay, no? I was just mentioning how I, half a block up from my house, I got their neighbors, their mail, and they've gotten mine because our address is 111. One is BB, one is Beach. And I've had to go up to their house and they're to mine to give mail. So that's not just a problem out that way. And I was asking if this was the time to where I can make a motion to that we table this and go with the larger signs for Airport Way, the signage for there.
You can make a motion.
Okay. I would like to make a motion that we table consent agenda item N, and that larger signs be put on Airport Way.
Can I have some discussion on that motion before we proceed? Is that appropriate?
Mr. Tubby?
There it goes. I believe at this point we need a second, and then you could go to discussion.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Been motioned and seconded. Okay, discussion.
So my understanding is that the hearing is really more to set a date where we would discuss the actions in front of us, which could include signs inside of that hearing. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So it doesn't seem to me that there would be a need to table this so that we could discuss signs. That could all be done in the hearing.
I believe that would be,
Is that?
That
It
could
doesn't
be
seem,
done
it
at-
doesn't seem a necessity in order to be, for that to be considered, correct?
Right, I mean, what the item is before you is to set a hearing. So if you vote to not set a hearing, then it stops at this point, or you set a hearing and talk about it, and any ideas could come forward related.
I've said what I need to say.
okay. Counselor,
I would like to put a motion to cancel this.
we
We
already have a motion on the floor.
Okay, sorry. Never mind.
Counselor Roberts.
I just want to make sure I got my head wrapped around this. The motion is to not move forward and add signs. So a yes vote means we don't move forward. A no vote means we go back to item N and decide if we're going to continue from there.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Do I have to go through a whole public comment and everything on this one, or this?
Not
I
on the
don't think
motion.
so. This is, yeah, this is okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Yes, meaning basically we table, no meaning we move forward.
Motion dies.
Okay. Roll call.
Yes.
No.
No?
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
Okay. Motion fails. 2 to 4, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. 5. Okay. Yeah. 2 to 5. All right.
I would like
So-
to make a motion
All right.
that we establish a hearing date of May 11th for the airport road consideration.
So we move back to the original motion.
Correct.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Motion and second. Motion by Councilor McCarthy, second by Councilor Kelso. Roll
Mayor?
call.
Sorry, I just wanted to comment on this, just because I think it was important. It came up earlier. When we set this official hearing date, that's when property owners and people will be let know that we are going to have an official date on this topic for us to have. So I just wanted to make that clear that by setting this date, people that actually live on that address will be notified of this. So that's all.
Okay. Any others? Last chance. Okay. Roll call.
Yes.
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 No.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1. All right. Next up, ordinances, resolution 2418, Gear and Harper realignment contract award. Mr. Smith.
Yeah, Mr. Morgan, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this evening we're bringing to you Resolution 2418 to award a contract to construct some realignment work to the intersection of Gear and Harper. So that's just a sketch showing what the project will look like. The Gear and Harper Road realignment's been on the capital improvement plan since 2019. Two main components for the project, one being safety through the addition of railroad crossing arms. Currently, it's a fully uncontrolled crossing. There is a stop sign, but no crossing arms. And then predominantly, this has always been about improving traffic flow through the area. But specifically, I think it's important for folks to understand as we move forward with this project, there's going to be significant disruptions to traffic flow in that vicinity. And I think the disruptions that are going to occur only help to underscore the importance of that intersection and getting it realigned. So unfortunately, we're going to have to go through some challenges with traffic flow in that area for a while. Timeline-wise, we anticipate the contract before you this evening is just for the paving portions. It's not for installation of the railroad crossing arms. So the actual paving portion will go, in the grand scheme of things, relatively quickly. So I anticipate the paving portion will be complete here this fall, and then the actual crossing arms portion of the work may not be completed until next spring. So the actual crossing is likely to be closed for upwards of a year, but the actual traffic flow on either side of the railroad crossing should be restored by the end of the fall. So there will still be good traffic flow on either side of the railroad crossing prior to the actual crossing itself opening back up. So I just wanted to make that portion or that point clear. We opened bids on the paving portion of the project here last week. Got good turnout from the construction industry, and so all of the bids came in underneath the engineer's estimate. The engineer's estimate was about $1.4 million. So Silver Creek Contracting came in the lowest at just a shade over $1 million. Also important to understand, the funding for this project is all coming from state gas tax earmark associated with House Bill 2017. We were earmarked $4.5 million for improvements to North First Place. And so through several iterations of scope changes on that project, we had a little under $2 million remaining. And so the state ODOT was amenable to us amending the scope to use the remainder of those funds to go toward the intersection realignment there at Gear and Harper. So the paving portion is about $1 million. We still have about $2 million left over. We're still awaiting the final costs on the actual railroad crossing arms, but we anticipate those crossing arms to eat up pretty much all of the remainder of those remaining funds. So with that, I'd stand for any questions.
Council questions? Councilor Barone.
Just a question on the remaining funds. I know you said like 1.94 million. One of the things that I think was still pending from that project was the sidewalk on First Place. Is that still kind of part of those funds as well?
No, so that's not going to be accomplished this year as part of that project.
Okay. Any estimate on that?
We're still waiting on the railroad, unfortunately. It's very frustrating. Yeah.
Thank you.
Others?
I just have one question. I would like to know for those arms that are gonna be at the railroad crossing, is the railroad paying for that or is the city paying for it?
The city's paying for it. Unfortunately, the railroad, they would just assume nobody ever crosses their tracks. I mean, truly. So they don't make it easy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Others? Public comment? Seeing none. Council comments? Seeing none. Okay, can I get a motion to adopt resolution 2418 and lay upon the record?
So moved.
Second.
And been moved by Councilor McCarthy, second by Councilor Jerome. Roll call.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Nice. All right, resolution 2419, authorize participation in product liability litigation engagement of council. Mr. Smith.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we talked a little bit in the work session about PFAS. I'm not even going to try to say the chemical name there in your packet, but these, like was mentioned, these chemicals have been around for a long time and were used in all kinds of products, including firefighting foam, water-resistant fabrics, all those kinds of things that have left these chemicals to slowly degrade, but very slowly, and that's the challenge. And they're finding a lot of potential health problems that are tied to that. So it's become more and more of an issue. It's all around the country. There's been litigation started against some of the manufacturers of these chemicals. And so there's some litigation going on. And what we're requesting tonight is to have the authority to join one of those groups and be able to utilize their expertise. And there's some chance of some funding that might come out of that would help us in the costs of what we talked about in the work session, as far as potentially building treatment facilities to deal with that. So be happy to answer any questions as far as this item goes, but we're looking for authorization to join the class action litigation.
Counselor Brown?
Now, is this the class action suit that the city of Pendleton also joined in on?
They did also join this same firm.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Other questions? Seeing none? Public comment?
Karen Jones. I do know that in Hermiston, that the water tested at approximately double the federal limit at this point, and that it's a serious issue here. And I'm really grateful to staff and Byron for bringing the litigation potential to our attention. I really appreciate you doing that. For those of you who are not familiar with them, they're a class of approximately over 16,000 different chemicals. And the compounds have been linked to cancer, birth defects, decreased immunity, high cholesterol, kidney disease, and a really horrific, much longer list of potential health impacts. And that's not even getting into the environmental impacts. So I'm really encouraging you all to vote yes to support moving forward with this to protect the community and the residents in this area. Because unless we join on and things are changed in the future, Hermiston may be cut out of the process. Because if you don't start early, you're out. So thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other public comment? Seeing none. Council comments? Seeing none. Can I get a motion to adopt resolution 2419 and lay upon the record?
Second.
Let me get it out. Eesh. Been moved by Counselor Litton, second by Counselor Duran. Roll call.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Just a reminder, folks, patience isn't just for doctors anymore. All right, motion passes unanimously. Go get 'em, Tiger. Okay, 10. Council stipend discussion and possible action. City Manager Smith.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, at your March 9th meeting, there was a motion and a second to have this item brought to the council for discussion. Just as a brief history, your current level of compensation was established on April 13th, exactly 28 years from today, in 1998. And we did some look at this about 7 years ago, but there was no action taken. And any other increase also needs to be, would not take effect until elections take place. But also, just to be the most safe, we would request that all of you declare a potential conflict of interest because you are voting potentially on your own compensation, and so that's benefiting you. So to be the most safe, we would request that you do that before you move forward with any discussion on this topic.
Does anybody have any potential conflicts or any conflict of interest to declare? Start to just.
Yes.
Yes. I have a potential conflict of interest.
Yes.
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 As do I.
Okay,
You know, I can't vote.
now Mr.
All right.
Covey feels a lot better.
Well, I was going to ask that question, actually.
All right.
And the current levels you can see are in your staff report, 250 a month for the mayor, 100 a month for counselors. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions, or we're looking for direction but before we did any more staff work on this.
Questions?
So I just want to make sure I understand what's being considered tonight is not to necessarily, this is the amount, but to direct staff to come up with something to present to council for approval, if that's the motion that's considered. We're not saying it's going to be $1,000 a month and we're good to go tonight. That's not.
Correct.
What we're
There
asking.
was no dollar amount that I was aware of to bring forward. So this was just a discussion about it, and we're looking for any direction.
So potentially, they could make a decision to either A, vote tonight to
Direct
to-
staff.
to come up with amount,
Mm-hmm.
to say no to it, to, I mean, anything can happen at this point in time.
What we would like, because of the way that was done the last time, it was a motion and, we'd like to have it be either a resolution or an ordinance, so it's a little easier to find and,
Okay.
and it's a little more clear. So if there was a consensus to move forward with making a change to increase, we'd like to come back at the next meeting with either a resolution or an ordinance that would implement whatever was discussed and talked about tonight.
Follow-up question?
I would just like to point out then, among the list of potential actions suggested in the packet, and just in case people haven't taken a recent look at it, is one of the options is to direct staff to return with current comparables for further discussion and possible action. So that is also an appropriate direction we could go tonight. That's what I want to say.
Or no
So that was where was,
Or no
where was the question in that?
I guess that was more a comment, my bad.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Other questions?
I'm trying to think of how to phrase this question.
Well, because you're gonna have time for comments too.
Okay, I'll save it for comments.
There we go. Okay. Any other questions for staff on this? Public comment? All right. She's not
My name is Krista Van Veen. I'm at 764 West Alder Avenue. I appreciate the time and service.
1 second.
Yes.
As she is as a candidate, does she have a potential conflict of interest on this or not? That's a question.
No, she's not.
She's not an elected official. She
Okay,
can't have a
all right,
conflict.
just want to make sure we,
And I'm a candidate.
that's why, that's why, because it was brought up and so just to be
Yep,
safe.
that's clear.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
I do appreciate the time and service that the full city council and city employees give. And as a candidate, I've also been attending some of the meetings. I definitely understand there's a lot of work that goes into it. I also support having a stipend because I think it makes public service more accessible and allows more residents to consider running for office. But I do not support a proposed increase unless it is referred to the voters for input. I don't support people voting for their own basically salary increase. So I believe any substantial increase should be put before the voters to ensure transparency and to maintain public trust. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other public comment? I think we should just get you a chair.
She took my spot.
Do it Oprah style.
I'm making up for the meetings that I don't say anything at. First of all, I understand the need for the stipend. I think it's actually a really good thing. And as a voter and resident here, I personally don't have a problem with it going up to maybe $200 a month, maybe $250 a month. I know that there was a big rumor on Facebook that there was a proposal or a potential proposal to go to $1,000 a month, and I really don't know of anybody who would support something like that, including the city council members. So I'm going to suggest that maybe adopt and have staff give the council some direction and look at other communities in Oregon to see what kind of a stipend they have for comparable communities and see what theirs is, so you can get an idea of what's realistic and what's actually happening here. Because right now, we don't really know what it is in the area. And then revisit that when staff has done the report and you have the information so you can make a good judgment call. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other public comment? All right, seeing none. Council comments. And Ms. Litton, I know you were there.
Yes, I've raised my hand several times. Thank you all for your comments, and I did check into this, but I asked some counselors what they were making in other cities that were even smaller than us, and I felt that it was too much. But I didn't want to say that because that's not my business. There, people did that. When I brought this up, I was going to ask that we raise it from $100 to $300 a month for counselors, and that would be an extra $200 to go towards the mayor. This is not a salary, because nobody in here can live off of $300 a month. Okay, or $550 a month. It's a stipend that has, like, it has not been done in 28 years, and all of us and the previous counselors have worked, I feel, very hard. We've had a lot of information that we read. We've dedicated a lot of time and purpose, and also I feel that we care about this community. Otherwise, we wouldn't be up here. At least that's my opinion. I shouldn't, maybe I shouldn't say that. I speak for myself. I won't speak, I apologize for speaking for everybody else. Apologize right now. But I think that so that is the reason I brought it up, that after looking at others that, and I don't know who came up with 1,000. Nobody ever mentioned anything about 1,000. To me, that's ridiculous. I don't think we should get paid that much myself. So right with that, I'll stop with the comments.
Councilor Giron.
So I kind of voted to have this discussion, not necessarily because I wanted, city councilors to get an upgrade on the stipend, but more importantly, just so that we could have a conversation about it. And honestly, I have served as a school board member, now as a city councilwoman. But I believe that when I wanted to run for a city councilor, it was not because I look forward to getting something monetarily in return. I felt like my service, being able to serve the community that I live in, as a way to show my gratitude towards the people that have made decisions that have benefited me, my children, my family, and other families. I felt like that was privilege enough for me to feel good about serving on city council. And when I heard after I was elected that bonus came with $100 stipend a month, I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. So I don't necessarily feel like I need to be rewarded in any other fashion. I feel like those that have run for the seat do it out of the kindness of their heart. They just want to volunteer. They're looking for ways to contribute back to their community. So I personally don't believe that we even need to have this discussion. Also, this comes at an awkward time because we had a goal session setting where we could bring these things up. And yes, we are able to bring other, topics as the year progresses. But some may also consider, well, this is the perfect time too, as before going into discussing what our budget will look like in the next fiscal year. So with that, I'm just going to say that I do not support a stipend increase.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilor Kelso.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am in agreement with Councilor Giron. In fact, when I got elected, I was like, what do you mean you're going to pay me money? I don't want money. I ran for city council because I love this city and I want to serve the city. And I feel as though receiving any stipend in any amount somehow taints that service, because people can say, well, he's getting paid. But I don't want your money. I don't want the city's money. I don't want the taxpayers' money. And if it were up to me, we'd have a $0 stipend, all of us. And I don't think there's one of us sitting up here I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I don't think one of us sitting here would leave or resign our position if the stipend went to $0. And I think at this point, there's no reason for the taxpayers to take $12,600 out of their pocket every year and give it to us. So if it were up to me, we'd have a $0 stipend. Thank you.
Counselor Barone?
Thank you, Marin. I just wanted to maybe even start off by giving a historical context. There we have it in the summary, but it doesn't really say everything that's happened. 7 years ago, we did have a study, and it was with comparable cities. 7 years ago, if you guys remember, was 2019. So for those people that were still on the council, we were discussing rebuilding the new city hall, and we were also discussing potential funding for the HWAC, or HOC, as we call it today. And at that time, the council decided not to move forward because we knew we had these huge projects on the horizon. And so we just decided to pause and really didn't move forward on it. And then, of course, COVID forced our hand. And not only that, but to Mr. Kelso's point, the entire council gave up their salary during the COVID years. I think it was 1 year, right? Yeah. And so, and nobody left the council. Obviously, I think everybody that's up here is wanting to serve, wanting to do what's right, wanting to serve the people. So I don't really think of a stipend as a reward, but more of compensation for the work that that the people are doing. Even looking at when the council established its compensation back 28 years ago, if you just even want to adjust for inflation, it should be somewhere around the ballpark of $200. Now, I know what it means to serve or have a job, or I guess, or a position that you're not going to that position to get rich. I'm not a counselor to get rich. I'm certainly not an educator to get rich. And so it's a choice that, you know, one makes. But at the same time, just because you're making a selfless choice or a choice that you're wanting to make to help others or help the community, that doesn't mean that the value of your work goes down. I believe that adequate compensation isn't something that's too far-fetched. That being said, I also wouldn't agree for anything of over 1,000, something reasonable. And so we can look at comparative cities. We can even just make the adjustment for inflation. And honestly, like if there are people in the council or the future councils that feel that for whatever reason, right? Maybe it's people don't want to accept the money, or maybe they're financially comfortable already, or maybe they're retired, whatever the reason may be. I would then say, go ahead and donate it. Go ahead and donate it back to the city, donate it to a charity in this area. The money stays here. And so if people are so inclined to not want to be compensated, I'd say we can give that compensation back. But at the same time, even as one of the candidates mentioned, it's I just lost my train of thought on that. But I'll go ahead and I don't think I'll go ahead for, because I'm not remembering exactly the comments. I'm not really wanting to tie it back in right now. But at any rate, I think it's important just to have a study, and it doesn't mean that we're making a decision, but I think it should be something that should be thought about and more accessible to people. And even like Councilor Linton said, no one's going to be rich off $300, $200. It's adequate compensation for a service that's being provided, and so those are my thoughts. I agree with everybody that no one's here to make money. I mean, but people's time is valuable, and so if people want to donate it, then I feel like they can donate their stipend. And if not, then I mean, it's the value of the position itself. So those are my comments.
Other council comments? Councilor Roberts?
I hear both sides of this, and that's one of the reasons I supported having the discussion. I think it was an important discussion to have to kind of gauge where we're all at and hear, you know, each other's reasons. The stipend does compensate time, and that is valuable, and I get that. From just me personally, and I'm only going to speak because I think each one of us has our own view on this. And so I personally have a hard time right now increasing because we've just increased rates and we've increased fees and we're taking more and more from our constituents. It feels like to them. I hear it from them. And while I understand that our time is valuable, and I can even in a certain scenario support an increase at some point, just right now with what we've been having to do to keep the city going and the city running, I have to consider the fact that even though it's small amount in the grand scheme of the budget, that money does have to come from something and somewhere. So we either have to increase what we take from the constituents, or we have to cut some kind of line item somewhere to make it. And so, you know, that's kind of where my mind is going, is not that it wasn't a noble thing to have a discussion about, or that we even consider, but just personally, the timing right now is not where I'd like it to be.
Okay. Any other council comments? Councilor McCarthy.
I'm just taking stock of a lot of what's been said today, and I think it wouldn't be difficult to observe, but again, this is just my opinion, that not everybody has the same idea of whether or not we should or shouldn't increase the amount we should or shouldn't increase to, and where there is or potentially isn't value in an increase. I think everybody that comes to council, comes to an elected position, comes to it for their own reasons, or because maybe they were suggested to, and circumstances change in life and circumstances change in our expenses. But I do think it's important. I just want to kind of echo what some other counselors have said, is we had the opportunity to present this multiple times, where, for example, in goal setting, we've had the opportunity with some of everybody that's been on council has been on council for more than a year now, has had more than one goal setting session, has had more than one, or at least for some of them will be more than one budget when it comes around to this time of year. So it seems inappropriate, it's the wrong word, but it's the only one I can think of, to petition for an increase inside this meeting. So I suppose to summarize, we've made an agreement that I think any one of us, if we just kept going for the way things were, wouldn't have any problem continuing, and that's kind of just where I stand. I don't know if I really made a point there. I just felt like I needed to say something.
You talked a lot. Councilor Hayward, you're the only one yet.
As I got into this position, I was told it was a non-paid position. I'm grateful for what I get. I think, like the elected person that's running, that the citizens should vote on this. I think just by serving is the benefit that I have, serving my community. That's enough pay for me. Not even taking a pay would be the best. By benefit, I'm grateful for what I get from the city for it. It wasn't my decision. It was before my time. But I'm grateful, but I also think if I'm going to increase my wage, I think citizens should be the ones that vote on that, and it'd be on a ballot for them to vote that, instead of me making that decision if I should get a pay raise or not.
Okay. Any others? Well, that's everybody, so my turn, I guess. Sure.
Except also, I think that by putting it on the ballot, that would be an added cost to the city, correct? Because you would have to put it on.
If we were to put it on the November, probably wouldn't be any additional cost, because there will be
Other things.
other city items on the ballot. So we're going to pay for that. If it is an additional cost, it would be very small.
Okay.
Another thing, just worth mentioning, when we did 7 years ago review those comparables, one of the things that, if I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, because I remember you were part of those conversations, is that when we discussed compensation, one of the things that the council, or maybe it was the city staff or council, decided is that the fact that council, in our council budget, maybe not necessarily our stipend, but we had funds there to be able to at least make sure that every counselor was able to go to a training, whether that was LOC, NLC, that kind of thing. And I mean, honestly, it's really clear. Like when I was here at the very first couple of years, everybody could go. And this last time, only 3 of us were able to go.
Right.
And so I think even if it's not evaluating stipends, I think that was one of the things that we talked about 7 years ago is the value of least of the funds for being able to send counselors, especially new counselors, to trainings to become more knowledgeable and better counselors. And so maybe it's not necessarily a stipend, maybe it could be just the council budget to make sure that counselors could go if they choose to want to go.
Okay, my turn. So, so just in the, for, over as a overall thing, I know that in the past, I know multiple counselors over the years have done exactly what it was one person had brought up, is the fact that they donated their entire stipend every year. They didn't take the money, they donated it. And so, that is an option for anybody that sets up here to do just that. And that's, it's commendable by every way of looking at it. So, that part of it. And in comment to the deal, when we dropped our stipend, that was during the budget crisis that we had here a couple years ago, and we voted to stop receiving the compensation, and we stopped going to the trainings and everything during that time frame because the monetary end of things. And as it has been brought up that we do allow counselors, and it has become even limited to the amount that can go to some of these things, but we do have counselors that are able to go to different functions, and even such as myself, was able to go to Washington DC for the first time in all the time that I've been on council for the National League of Cities meeting. But as part of that, I know that I'm part of the Oregon Mayors Association, and during one of the discussions that we had on that, there was a poll put out by those folks on who was getting compensated and how much they were getting compensated. And honestly, we get more than most cities, even bigger cities than us. So, and some of the only compensation they get is being able to go to in-state trainings and conferences. So, I think that what we're doing and what we've been doing is fair, to be blunt, I guess. I don't, I mean, I know what I get, and, I was a counselor for 12 years, and, the $100 was just, that's what I used for the different functions that I get, to pay for the gas to go to this or that. That's in my mind, that's what that was for. That was kind of my budget, line budget for things like that. And so, for me, that's how that goes. Do I think we need a raise? No. Me personally, no, I don't. I don't do this for the money. I'm pretty sure everybody up here doesn't do it for the money. We all care about our city. Would I still be doing this if we decided to stop paying? Absolutely. I'm not, the money is not a thing. I think, as Councilor Barone pointed out, us being able to attend some of the trainings to bring better ideas and better ways of looking at things, that's money well spent. Because as we are able to make better and more informed decisions, us being able to do that should be first and foremost, because we have a responsibility to the folks to put that check mark next to our name, because they trusted in what we were going to do. And I think we owe that to them to be good stewards of their money. And, you know, we're not here, again, we're not here for the money. We're here to do the right thing at the right time for the right reason. Therefore, that's what I say. So, yes, Councilor Kelso.
I'd like to make a motion that we eliminate the stipend for the city council and the mayor.
Second.
Okay, motion, is that, are we? Okay,
We have a
Roll.
motion and a second.
discussion. Councilor Brown.
I appreciate what the counselors bringing forth, but just as we mentioned previously, if counselors want to donate their stipend, they're absolutely free to charity of their choosing or back to the city. But absolutely, the work that we do should get compensated. And so I'm saying that even going into a reelection year and even having opponents the last 3 elections. So I know 4 of us are up for reelection. And trust me when I tell you that even if I were to win or lose, the future person should get compensated adequately for the work that they do. Again, I go back to the point that everyone's made, which everyone's 100% true. It's 100% right. Everyone's here because they want to serve the community. That doesn't mean that your time should just be completely free unless you want to donate it, and by all means.
Councilor Kelso.
Yes, thank you. Councilor Barone mentioned the concept that we should be compensated adequately for our time. Well, if I was being adequately compensated for my time, the hours I put into my city council work, I'd be making $1,000 a month off of this job. And I'm not. And I love that because I'm trying to be, I'm here because, again, I love the city and I'm a civil servant and I want to serve the people of this community out of the love that I have for it. I have no interest in being compensated financially for my time. My reward is, again, serving the city. I have time on my hands. I have no kids at home. And putting the time into the city is what I chose to do when I ran for office. In fact, I told you I had no idea that there was a stipend involved with this job. So yeah, an individual counselor can donate the stipend back, but what is the benefit to the other counselors who keep the money? And then is there a differentiation between the two? Like, can I campaign on the fact that my opponent takes the money and I wouldn't? I mean, maybe I could. I don't know. I think we're all here out of the goodness of our hearts. We're all here in the interest of serving the people of this community. And I don't think $100 a month or frankly, anything below what I feel I'm worth by the hour is worth messing with. So again, that's why I made this motion and I'm glad that it was seconded. And that's my comments. Thank you.
Councilor Jerome.
I would second that, Mr. Kelso. I believe that we get a lot of great benefits from being able to attend. I know that this year we haven't all been able to attend a lot of the conferences because our budget is tight. I think if we're able to save the budget and so that we are able to go to trainings and get better that way, I would like to see that happen. Or however, you know, it all plays out. I wouldn't mind if the stipend was taken away.
Okay. Councilor Litton.
I just want to say that I'm in 100% agreement with Councilor Barone. And that's all I have to say on that.
Okay. Councilor Roberts.
I don't need the money. And like Councilor Kelso, I don't think I was aware of it until after I started. And if it went away, it's not gonna affect me at all. But at the same time, it's already budgeted. It's already in there. And if it's important for other counselors to have it, I have no issue with, status quo. We've talked about an increase. I think, you guys know where I stand on that. But as far as eliminating it altogether, I've heard enough people on both sides to think, in my mind, sometimes no change is the right way to go. And since we're here, I'm comfortable just leaving it as is. And then, again, like we talked about, if at goal setting or down the road, we want to have a longer discussion about whether or not we should keep it, I think that's an adequate thing to do. But right here in this moment, sometimes, just pumping the brakes is kind of a good thing in my mind. And so not making any change, I think, gives us a chance to really vet this out. And that's kind of where I stand.
Okay. Other comments?
I'd like to, well, sorry.
Yep.
I'd like to echo what Councilor Roberts has said. I'm in favor of really taking the time inside really more of a goal setting session to make change, whether that be increase or decrease. I was prepared to move into a no action suggestion had Councilor Kelso not made the motion that he currently has.
Okay. Hold on, we gotta wait. Everybody else? Edward, do you have anything? Okay.
I understand where you guys are coming from, but I think the benefit to the citizens of the city would be greater in being able to send 1 or 2 more counselors to trainings to become better counselors than putting $100 a month into each of our pockets. I think we could send perhaps with that 12,000, no, it's the total that's spent on all of our stipends is $12,600 per year. We could send probably 2 more counselors to trainings than we currently do per year. And I think that would have a greater net benefit to the city and to the citizens of this city than it does, again, putting $100 into each of our pockets every month. I don't see what the benefit is of that to the citizens of this town, whose pockets that money comes out of.
Okay. Councilor Brown?
I've enjoyed this spirited conversation, honestly. I think, and again, I've lost my train of thought. This is the second time today, man. So I apologize. Yeah, actually I am. So, but well, if I remember, guys, I'll let you guys know. But
We're about to take a vote, so. All right.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Last chance. Okay, so the motion on the floor is to dissolve the current council stipend.
Right, all council stipends, yes.
Okay. All right,
And
here we go. So, roll call.
Yes.
No.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, I don't have to vote.
But it passed.
Oh, that's right. She's
So, motion.
So it passed.
No.
I mean, it failed.
Motion failed.
Motion failed.
Yeah, motion
Yeah, it
failed
failed.
3-4.
Okay.
So can you get to vote for a second?
No, Nope. Okay, so the motion fails, and as such, are we going to be moving this forward to
Read it.
question?
Well, I have a separate motion.
Okay, separate motion, okay.
I move that we take no action on this discussion.
Okay. A motion to take no further action on this discussion. Motion by Councilor McCarthy to take no further action, seconded by Councilor Hayward. Discussion. None. Roll call.
Yes.
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 No,
No.
Yes.
or I mean, okay,
To stop.
Yes.
We're
Stop.
not moving to do anything right now, is what we're basically saying.
so my no vote would be,
Would mean you want to keep talking.
oh. Okay, yes.
All right. So
We want to just go.
motion passes 6-1 on no further discussion. It's done. Okay. Done until
Next.
somebody else brings it up. Okay. Wow.
Okie dokie.
It would have still passed either way, Mary. It's okay.
Huh?
It would have still passed either way, Ray.
But you counted my.
All right. City committees and liaisons. Anybody have any committee reports at this point in time?
Not mine. We haven't met.
I was not present for the last council meeting, but we had our first meeting of the TRT Funds Committee, and those presentations should be coming around in the next couple of months,
Okay.
due by end of May.
Okay. Any other council committee reports?
No.
Seeing none. Mayor's report. Wow, what a session. First off, she's left, but I wanted to thank Captain Primer for her presentation and what was brought forward on dispatch. I said a bunch at that point in time, and I still say it again. Boy, she must have a great husband. But sorry, I couldn't. Anyway, no, other than that, we got the candidates fair coming up here in a couple of days. Should be an interesting turn of events, so to speak. The forum, I mean, Kansas Forum Fair. Sorry, I wrote it down wrong. But I look forward to hearing what everybody has to say. I think it's going to be a great deal. I know that the ones that I participated in, I hated every minute of it, but you get to learn a lot about the folks that are wanting to have a seat up here. It's not all the, obviously you can see, it's not all the fun and games that everybody thinks it is.
And every seat's contested this year.
Yes, and every seat is contested this year, so there's no undone. Aside from that, I know I've forgotten, I didn't write everything down. What's that? Oh, yes, we have the regional meeting coming up. Well, I'll let you tell that one, because I don't have it written down on mine. So when it comes your turn, then that'll give you time to get it ready. I know we have the LOC coming up here in a couple weeks in Pendleton. If you haven't signed up for it, I think it might be a bit too late. So shame on you for not doing it. Anyway, Council President report.
I was just going to talk about the candidates forum, so you got it.
Good. Council comments. Councilor Brown.
Well, last time that we were here, I mentioned to you guys that I wanted to speak a little bit about the NLC, because I think the last time we were here, it was like 10 o'clock. We needed to go home.
Almost.
But I mean, just kind of like we were talking about earlier, these trainings are a really good experience. This was my second time going to DC, and the first time that I went to DC for the National League of Cities was it was my first or second year, and so it was just a lot to know, a lot to take in. So this time when I went, it's like year 8, like I felt much more experienced, much more like I kind of knew more or less of what I was doing, and so I was able to participate more and involve myself more this time around than when I did the first time. The first time I was just kind of really taking things in, really seeing how, our leaders, like we had Rod Hardin, we had the mayor and Byron the last time, and Jackie Myers the last time that we went like a couple of years ago. So it was really cool to see them do their thing and now being able to kind of jump in. So we did have a couple of meetings with some congressmen and representatives. So we had a meeting with Representative Wyden, and in that meeting I was able to go with the mayor of Lake Oswego, the mayor of West Lynn, and the council president from Hillsborough. And so we had a couple of discussions about things that the League of Oregon Cities had as a priority for all Oregon cities. And so we talked a little bit about it. We talked about FEMA. We talked about these grants that are coming down the pipe. And so it was really good just to be there and be able to present in front of, our legislators and for them to actually see like the local leaders, the people that are serving on the local side of things. So they really did like hearing from local elected leaders. So I thought that was really cool. And so I want to thank the mayor for nominating me to be a part of that discussion. It was really a great experience. There was a couple of different roundtable discussions, as I'm sure a lot of you guys know. When you go to these conferences, there's so many different breakout sessions. I had the privilege of going to a couple different ones. One of them that I really enjoyed. We talked a little bit about immigration, and it was kind of a roundtable discussion on just kind of things that we need to kind of be mindful of as a city and maybe what other cities are doing. And so there was a lot of good information there. We had actually the chief of police from Minneapolis speak there. And so he was able to kind of detail a little bit more in time, like what happened when a lot of the federal officials or federal officers kind of came down to Minneapolis, and just kind of how that point of view was from his point of view. And so he said Minneapolis has about 500 cops in the city. And so this is one of the things that I remembered, 500 officers. And so when the federal government came in, they brought 3,000 federal officers. So if you can imagine like a town that normally has 500, then to be flooded with 3,000 officers, it was in his words, it was more of a mess because of the so many different federal agencies that were all there with no chain of command. And so it was interesting to really hear it from a law enforcement perspective, because you see the things on the news, but to actually hear it from people that are actually there was really insightful. And so a lot of different things that were coming down that were just discussed that I really appreciated just listening about. Other than that, we got to see a lot of the city of DC. And just to kind of tie it to like what I was just kind of doing last week, we went down to the Redwoods for my spring break, which was cool. I've never been down there before, but just to see different cities. It's like when I go out when I go out of town, see different cities like DC. I went to Ashland, Oregon, Grants Pass, all the way down 97. All those towns, just to see what makes those cities like really unique and how they build around what makes them unique was really cool. Ashland has a little stream that goes down their downtown, and they have a lot of restaurants and things built around it. And so I sent some of you guys on council some pictures that I saw in DC about some things that maybe could spruce up downtown. And I just wanted to share those things just because, yeah, I get like these thoughts and ideas when I'm down there, and it just introduce them at the right point when we come together as a council, whether it's through goal setting or if we start talking in committees. Just wanted to share that. And yeah, it was a really great experience. I wish I really had my my flow chart here, because we had a lot of different things that we talked about. We talked to all of our Oregon representatives. We also got to hear from a gentleman with the National Guard, and I think Mayor Premer probably knows the gentleman, but he discussed just getting in touch more with the National Guards in your area. A lot of communities here in Oregon, I was really surprised, that don't really know where their National Guard armory is. And so it was really great to hear that we, at least in Hermiston, have a really good connection. I know all of us counselors have received emails and invitations from our local National Guard here. And so I thought that was awesome. And it was just, yeah, just a lot of different things that we just talked about. It was interesting to hear other cities and what issues they're facing and what they're discussing. I remember talking to the mayor of Lake Oswego, and one of the things it's a really big thing down there, I guess, is their use of leaf blowers, gas-powered leaf blowers versus electrical leaf blowers. I guess that's an issue down there. And so I was like, wow, that's a Western Oregon issue, that's for sure. But it was just interesting. Different cities have different things to work with, and they're all trying to share as much information as they can. And so that was the skinny of it. There was a lot of other great things that we talked about, and a lot of good lobbying that we did on behalf of our community to hopefully bring some more services down here. So that's what I got, guys. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm a little fractured today. Maybe I'm just really tired or dehydrated, but I feel like I've lost my train of thought twice. And so that's just kind of what I want to let you guys know. I feel like there was more that I needed to share, wanted to share, but that's what I got right now. So thank you, guys.
Perfect. Thanks, sir.
Just on that, I want to say thank you to the mayor and the city for letting me go to DC. I went with Brown and the mayor. second everything that Roy says. A lot of committees meeting people and stuff. We got to see the Capitol. That was a big thing for me, first time coming over there. So like you said, when you're first there, you're just trying to take in all the information as much as you can. I learned a lot and stuff. Got to meet a lot of people. I know I have one city coming over for I Love My City to actually bring some pastors over to see it and stuff. They're from that conference, they're going to be coming over, taking a look at it and seeing I Love My City, maybe starting over there and stuff. So that's going to be the one exciting thing that's coming up in May and everything. I just figured, thank you to the city for sending me.
Ms. Litton?
Okay, I have a statement that I'm going to read, and it has to do with, something that was put on what's happening in Hermiston. And it had to do with the compensation. We voluntarily accept to serve our, sorry, didn't turn my mic on. We voluntarily accept to serve our community as responsibility to our constituents. As a city council member, we take our responsibility very seriously. How is it is a financial gain when for the last 28 years approximately, it has been the same? Who came up with $1,000 a month? It wasn't me. Someone put my name down in the comment and said that I was asking that we have $1,000 a month. And so I know the election is coming up, and so false things is going to come out. We do not work for a company that demands that we demands that we cannot vote or on certain issues. If we did, we would quit and not be a city council member. We believe Hermiston citizens come first at all times since we are responsible for our community. And the statement that was made, no one corrected that statement, so I took it upon myself and corrected the statement. When I was out campaigning, not this time around, but last time, some people said to me, you know, I think that if you come up with something, they're going to vote against it just because they don't like you. And I thought about that, and I said to them, no, I don't think that'll happen. I said, we care about our city, whether we agree or not. At least that's what I felt at that time. Okay, I just want to make that clear. I'm a very honest person. And if you ask me, if you don't want to know, don't ask me, because I'm going to answer you truthfully. And so when they said that to me, I went to thinking about that. Would someone do that? Would anyone do that? Especially when you say you love this city, whether you were born here like I was, or you came here and moved from somewhere else and became a part of this city. So that's all I have to say concerning that, and thank you.
Okay. Other council comments? Councilor Kelso?
Yeah, I had the privilege of attending a candidates forum on Saturday, April 4th at the Harkenrider Center, where we got to see candidates for governor of Oregon and U.S. representative and U.S. senator. And it was just fairly well attended. We probably had 35 or 40 people there. And it was great to hear from those people at the higher levels of government, just to hear their platforms and what their opinions are about Oregon and the direction that it's headed and where they would like to take it. So I just wanted to thank the group that put that on and say I had a great time and learned a lot.
Excellent. Other council comments? Councilor Drawn?
Unfortunately, I will not be able to attend a candidate forum. Kinder registration begins tomorrow for us. And the 14th and 16th are the nights that we will be working until 8 o'clock to help our families. However, I do want to say thanks to those that are running, those that are putting their necks out and doing all the work to gain a seat here. It takes a lot of work, and I just appreciate the time, the effort that everyone is putting in, and I wish everyone the best.
Any other council comments? Seeing none. Mr. Smith?
Yes, just want to point out the placemats. Sarah and her group put this together so you don't get food on the table up there. No, just kidding. Just to remind us of the goals and the different things that we've done, working together. It's great to have that there while we're meeting. And that's all I have.
Okay, well, with one exception, there is one more thing I do need to remind everybody. If you have not done your SEI filing, you better get it done. That could cost you some of that money that you're keeping. So, yeah, make sure.
Tomorrow is the deadline.
Yeah, you have,
The
actually, I
15th.
think it's the 15th.
Oh, wait,
Tomorrow,
today's the
yeah,
13th.
yeah, today's the 13th. So yeah, you have 2 days to get it done. Don't make Lily come looking for you.
She's back tomorrow.
Yeah.
She may be
So
sending you those.
with that, anything else? We're adjourned. Oh. We're not adjourned. Executive session.
Good question.
Oh, yeah, I need to read the statement. Hold on. I forgot to do that. Thank you. An executive session will convene pursuant to ORS 192.660 parentheses 2 parentheses G, which allows the council to meet in executive session for the purpose of discussing preliminary negotiations involving matters of trade or commerce. Now we're going to adjourn for that. But
Just
not before,
Just to cover, this meeting will take approximately, let me say 10 minutes.
yeah, there was
But I mean, the little
20 minutes,
20 minutes,
approximately 20 minutes.
and then we'll come
And we'll
back.
reconvene and then adjourn.
Thank you.
And does anybody else have anything to add to it? We're adjourned.